Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're taking a look at the Master Grade Kyrios Gundam. It is the new Master Grade that just came out from the 00 series, and I'm super excited about this one because I really like the design of the Kyrios. Personally, I like how unique it is. I like the big wings on the knees. I like the big long shoulders. The head design is super cool. Now, while I may not be the biggest fan of 00 in general, I really enjoyed the Dynames last year. It was a fantastic Master Grade kit. This is based off of the same frame design, so I'm sure it's going to be really awesome. And like I said, it doesn't really come with like a whole lot. It doesn't have like a big massive gun. It has a pretty good sized shield though, which has a claw gimmick, which I don't really necessarily care too much about. The beam rifle that it has is kind of small and dinky, but the missile pods are pretty cool. And the transformation gimmick, you take it or leave it. I'm not really that big into transformations, but at least it has that built in and it looks like it's going to work pretty cool. Taking a look around the box, it's got all the gimmicks that you would expect it to have. Fantastic articulation, that full frame there, the moving gimmicks in the shield with the claw opening up as I mentioned, the different weapons of the submachine gun and the missile units, the figures included, standing and seated pilot figures to go in there. You can use a couple of green LEDs in this. It needs 2 of them, but those are not included unfortunately. And again, it's just got a really super cool, unique design. It's orange, which is a pretty unique color. We don't have a ton of orange themed color Gundams, so that's a cool color. I'm a big fan of mixing up the typical Gundam color schemes, and orange is a really great choice for this one. I think it fits really well. And again, just some really cool gimmicks there with the articulation. We've got no doubts that that's going to be fantastic. So without any further ado, let's get it cracked open and see what we got inside here. So in here we've got 10 bags of runners and then a little advertisement here in the bottom and our manual. Let's just take a quick look through the manual here. On the front, you just got the box art there once again, which is very cool looking. And then on the back, you've got to look at what the front and back of the kit are going to look like when it's all painted up and everything. You got the paint guide down here, which is available in Japanese and in English for those of you who don't read Japanese. On the inside pages here, the fight zone, you got some more information there in Japanese and in English about just the story. The information down here looks like about the transformation gimmick over there. Also interesting to note, there is also optional equipment in the form of tail units equipped with various missiles and air-to-surface bombs and tail boosters consisting of large GN verniers. That would be super cool to get as some sort of P-Bandai expansion set for this or something, to have that extra equipment that you can attach onto this. We shall see. Anyway, over here then about the submachine gun and the GN shield. Very cool, of course, and then the GN hand missile unit. Those can just attach onto the arms. That's pretty cool as well. And the GN vernier and a GN beam saber. So you got those verniers there on the legs, which look like those expand out. That's kind of cool little gimmick there. And the beam saber is pretty standard. Going up to the front pages, we got some very nice line art here as well. If you want to scan that, it's good for testing out different color schemes and stuff. Information about the Gundam and information about haptism there in Japanese and English as well. On the next page, we do have our parts list, which you can see we got a bunch of leftover parts there from the reused runners from the Dynames. Then it's just on through the construction until you get to the end here. Then it'll build up the weapons and then how to do the transformation. So I'll show you how to do that. And at the very end, here is the marking guide for where to place the markings around on the kits everywhere. So it looks like we've got a good amount of markings there. So we've got actually quite a bit of these marking stickers here, these big white marking stickers to go around on some of the armor, and then some more white and gray little marking stickers there, caution markings, things like that. So those will be pretty cool. We'll see how those end up looking on the actual plastic. And then a few little photo stickers here, one for the eyes, and then another one to go, I think, for the camera on the head. And these ones go under the GN drives, and then the little green sticker there for the sight on the submachine gun, I think. And then once again, I think like all of the 00 Master Grade kits, it comes with this set of stuff here for like the GN cables, and it's kind of like soft material that's, as you can see, very shiny, sort of holographic look on that. So those end up looking really nice in the kit. And then SB8 for some clear pink beam saber effect parts. These are the sort of like square style ones used in the 00 kits. And then order A here in 4 colors is specific to the Gundam Kyrios, brand new runner here. We've got a couple of red parts over there on the side, which is in a kind of slightly darker red. Some pretty standard yellow out there throughout the center, and then some dark clear green at the top, and then some plain clear across the bottom. And then runner B in a medium gray is that MG 100 scale GN frame runner that came out last year with the Gundam Dynames. So this is that new GN frame. You can see we got some frame parts obviously, and then some hand parts on there as well. And the same thing here for runner C, also just some more frame parts in that medium gray color. And we've got 2 of the C runner. Then runner D is some of our white armor parts. This one also included just in the generic GN frame runner, so that's the marking for this anyway. So these are also just from last year, 2019. So these are just kind of generic armor parts for around on the legs and the arms, the ones that are kind of used to just buy all of the Gundams. But then runner E is getting back to some frame parts. These are now ones that are specific to the Kyrios, so this runner marking is now just back to Gundam Kyrios rather than GN frame runners. And the same thing here for runner F as well, and we've got 2 of this F runner for the remainder of our frame parts. And then runner G is getting into some of our larger white armor parts for the Kyrios here. The same thing for runner H1 here as well. You can see there's our pilot figures on there, seated and standing pilot figures included. And then we also have runner H2, which is a copy of this half of the runner over here. And runner I1 obviously getting into our orange armor parts. Now it's a pretty alright color of orange. It's about what you'd expect. It's kind of just like straight up orange. It's not really tinted to one way or the other. It just looks very orange if you just look up exactly orange. Now I'll have to check in the manual if that's exactly what it is for sure. But there's runner I2 as well, which is just a copy of this section of the runner there, and that's all the orange parts. So it's a predominantly orange looking mobile suit, but there's not a ton of orange parts on it actually. And just to check, according to the manual, the body orange is supposed to be 65% orange and 35% orange yellow and a small dose of gray, so it's actually a kind of slightly desaturated, slightly yellowish orange color. And then we got runner J1, which is in a very dark gray, essentially meant to just be kind of black, I think. And then runner J2, which is not a copy of that, but actually just an extension of that. Runner J2 here is for some more of those black parts for the backpack, it looks like especially. And then we have a third one here, runner J3, which is a copy of this middle section of the J1 runner as well. And finally back to just a medium gray color here for runner K1. This seems to be basically just the parts for the weapons and especially the missile pods there. We do also have runner K2, which is a copy of this section of the runner there. Again, it just looks like the parts for the missile pods basically. So there is everything that's going to be included there. Let me get it all built up and then we'll see how it looks. Alright guys, well here it is all built up, and I really like the way that this kit looks. If you guys missed the live stream of this build, you can feel free to go back and watch that video. It was a lot of fun building the kit up live, and we talked about some pretty interesting subjects along the way too, so I'd definitely recommend checking that out if you're interested in taking a couple hours to just have something to listen to maybe while you're building something. But basically my thoughts on this kit is that it's pretty great. It's a great solid master grade. Pretty much everything that I had good to say about the Dynames, all that pretty much equally applies to this kit as well. Any differences between this and the Dynames are going to be pretty minimal. Basically it's just the aesthetic, whether you prefer one or the other, you know, the orange color or the green color, and just the kind of design aesthetics of this one having the big super pointy shoulders and knees. But as far as like objective things like the articulation, the stability of the kit, the gimmicks of the kit, it's all pretty much the same as the Dynames, where this one has, you know, the gimmicks are not exactly the same of course, but they both have great gimmicks, great design, great articulation, great details, and you'll see that throughout the course of the review. So let's get into it. So let's run through the accessories then. First, shall we? We've got the standard action-based connector you'll use here for this, as well as our standing pilot figure in 1/100 scale. Looks pretty good, nicely detailed. For hand options, you're just gonna have the swappable fingers. So the ones I've got on there now are for making closed fists. You do also have fingers here for making open hands, and then also weapons holding hands here with the trigger finger sort of slightly extended out just a little bit on those. You got your clear pink beam saber blades for the beam saber handles, which are stored up in there, up underneath the back skirts, which is pretty cool, pretty unique, so I like that. And the GN beam submachine gun. Honestly, never really been too much of a fan of this weapon just because it's kind of small and just kind of awkward looking, but in kit form I actually do kind of like how this looks. I'm actually warming up to the design a little bit now. You have a sticker there for the camera, but that is a clear part behind there, so if you just wanted to paint the clear part, that's there as well. The handle is removable. It's not really stuck in there with anything really too much, so I wouldn't really recommend pulling that in and out too many times, maybe more than just once, because I feel like if you're taking that off too many times, it's gonna get loose and it's not gonna stay in place very well, so you just stick that in there, leave it there, and don't take it out again. But for a gun, while the design is pretty simple, I think it's kind of nice. Just the simplicity of it does look kind of cool. It's kind of interesting design. So it doesn't have any seam lines though either. You do have a mold line here on the top, which you'll need to sand, but that's just a solid piece there. So the seam lines are all hidden on this, so that's good. You don't have any seam line removal to do. And the same thing here goes for the GN hand missile units, which are just these like little missile pods here. And they're pretty cool as well. No seam lines on here, although you do have some mold lines you'll need to sand to get them really looking their best. But you got some nice detail around there. You'll notice up underneath the bottom you get 2 different points where you can plug that onto. Now the handle like this, like we saw in the beam rifle, you have 2 of these. One will be on the rifle or the submachine gun, and the other one you kind of choose to attach onto here if you want. But unfortunately you can't do that for both of these unless you take the one off the submachine gun. So you only have 2 of those handles. You could attach them both to these missile pods if you want. The other option that you can do is you've got 2 of these adapters that you can use to plug onto here, which will plug onto the back of the arm, and then these will be plugged onto the side of the arm. So we'll see those in effect here in a minute, but you got 2 of those attachments there for plugging those onto the arms, which are pretty cool. Sorry, 2 of the things I forgot to mention about this is that if you wanted, you can remove the handle here. And this connector for plugging the missile pods onto, this actually plugs onto the front of the forearm. You can use this on here as well. And you can just have the machine gun plugged onto the arm instead of actually in the hand, which is pretty cool, I guess. And then for this camera here, for making it pop up and down, you actually use it. There's a little trigger here on the back. So that is what you can just push it down like that, and then when you want it to pop back up, you can use this little piece here at the back. Just push that, and that will pop that back up like that. So it's a kind of cool little gimmick there. And then we have the GN shield, which honestly looks quite simple, sort of, or it's very small. It's not really very defensive looking. It's kind of like almost more offensive than a defensive equipment here, but this just plugs onto the back of the arm, and you have a few points of articulation. Basically, this whole section here will pop out to the front, and it should click into place there, and of course the front half opens up and those will open out, and then you have a point where that will bend there like that to make these kind of big like scissor claws, and then this whole section will actually move up and down like that as well, and it will also rotate here. So what you can do is extend that out, rotate it around, and then bend it forward like that, and then when this is plugged onto the arm, it's creating like a better kind of claw action there. And then just for one more extra touch, you have this white part here, which is the extra extendable blade, I suppose, which plugs into there like that. So I kind of wish that that was in like a metallic silver, just like some kind of like metallic or like silver injected plastic would have looked nicer maybe than white, but maybe it was white in the anime. I don't really remember, to be honest, but that just plugs into there like that to give you a little bit more offensive capabilities, I suppose. And then let's just take a closer up look here at the kit then as well. As you may have noticed on the weapons, I did put some of the stickers on here, although not all of them. There's a lot of them marking stickers that I didn't put on. But I've just put some of like the main marking stickers on just so you guys can get an idea of how those are going to look. Anything on the white plastic is going to look fine, so you're not going to see the outline of that. Anything on the orange is where it's starting to get a little bit tricky. You can kind of see the outline of the stickers a little bit more. Anything on the black, you're certainly going to be able to see the outlines of that pretty well. So you can see like here on the back and like on this gray part there on the backpack. Stickers are going to be not looking quite as good. The darker the color is, the less good the sticker looks. But as far as foil stickers, they're mainly just the ones you would expect. One's for the eyes there, or one for the eyes, and then one here for the head camera, which is just in plain chrome, which I thought was pretty interesting. Usually the head camera would be in the green or something, but it's just in this plain silvery chrome, which is kind of cool. And then aside from those and the one for the camera on the beam rifle, that's the really only ones that are immediately noticeable. The other ones are underneath the GN drive. So like here on the side of the arms, you got foil stickers up underneath there, which is going to help to make those a little bit more shiny. And then you got one here on the back of the head, which is not actually shiny at all. It's just this really super dark green there for that part on the back of the head, which is a plain clear part. So I've never really understood why they do this on these 00 kits, how they cover up clear parts with these dark green stickers. I guess that's just kind of to make it look more show accurate, but it seems like kind of a waste. I think just a nice bright clear green part would have looked more cool in my opinion. And the same thing for here. This dark green that they use for the clear is usually quite dark, so they have to try to brighten it up with like a mirror chrome sticker underneath. If they would have just made that in just a lighter clear green, I think it would have looked better. But also wondering why they don't have the same stickers to go up for these in the head too. So here in the arms, you can see the sticker helps to make that glow a little bit, shine nice and brightly, but they don't have that in the head, which is strange. So that's kind of disappointing. And the holographic parts as well for the GN cables around on the kit do look pretty nice as usual. They look pretty good. They catch the light if you catch them just right, but otherwise they're not super noticeable. You got some in the side, up here on the top of the head, on the back of the arm, there's some up in there. So in the right lighting, they look cool. Otherwise, they're not really going to be all that noticeable in this kit, really, to be honest. The articulation is all pretty nice and exactly what you would expect. Like we saw with the Dynames, it's all very good. We got some really nice articulation here. You can bring the head forward. This was more important for the Dynames to be able to look down the rifle scope. Not so much as important for this one, but you can do the same thing with the neck joint in this one as well. So that's all good. The shoulder articulation here expands out there and then like kind of separates the side of the torso as well. So you got some nice movement there. This part here on the back of the shoulder is actually plugged on via a ball joint. So this can move around kind of all over the place. There's a lot more movement in that little part there than I was really expecting. The arms work pretty much exactly how you would expect as well. Just rotation there at the upper arm. You have a nice double joint there at the elbow to give you a really nice full bend in the wrist. And in the forearm, you actually have like kind of a double joint here, how this whole bit of the forearm will move up and down, and then you also have the rotation here of the wrist, and then the wrist is also on a hinge itself as well. So you kind of have 2 points of articulation there for your wrist movement to make that move around really nicely. And then the thumb is just one single piece on a ball joint there connected into the hand. Now in the torso, you have some nice side-to-side motion, basically at 2 points. There's like a lower point and an upper point, so you can see that will rotate there and there, so you can kind of see it's rotating there the top part and then rotating the bottom part as well. So it's really nice. And then for forward and back, you kind of have to get this backpack part kind of out of the way for it to bend backwards, but for it to bend forwards, you can see it's a pretty good bend there. It looks like it's not really getting too much more farther than that, but if we move those backpack parts a little bit out of the way, you can see how that will also bend back a little bit there like that, and then this little part actually moves a little bit. And then the cockpit hatch also does open here. We have our seated pilot figure up inside there. He's very small, but he's there in white. And then just on the note of these backpack parts, there's this little tab here, so when you put them together, they should like clip into place, so they actually will be stuck together like that, which is good. The front skirts move pretty nicely and get these situated in a way so that they're up and out of the way for the most part, I think, so they shouldn't bother the leg articulation too much. The legs are on a swinging hip joint here, so that will be able to swing down into the front a little bit for more forward articulation there to the legs. So it has some nice articulation when you bend the knee. That separation of this massive wing and this knee armor part there is pretty cool, so I like the look of that. And the gimmick here with the little vernier that pops out, if you push this little gray part here on the top, that little leg vernier will pop out like that. So that's pretty cool. And then this ankle armor down here will just be able to move up and down. And like this part, which is kind of like the top of the foot. And I like how there's like a gap there. It's a kind of interesting foot design, how this part and like the actual foot part are a little bit separated, but that moves. And then the toe moves up and down, up underneath the feet. You got some nice detail there, but it's a unique foot design because of the transformation. It needs to fold up like that, but the ankles will move very far up to the front, and then you can of course point that all the way back down to the bottom. And then side to side is just pretty standard, nothing really too crazy, but you got enough side to side movement there to be able to get a pretty wide stance. Shouldn't be any problem. And just going back up to the back skirts here really quickly, those are like separated. You could move them up and down a little bit, but they're kind of like clipped into place a little bit, I think, for the transformation. So they're kind of really just meant to just be stuck there, although you could move them, I guess, if you really wanted to. Of the beam saber handles, you just need to get up in there, and then this part will rotate out to the side. It's a little bit tight, so I'm being careful. I would just be a little bit cautious with that. Maybe turning it too hard or fast would maybe break that peg. So just be a little bit careful rotating that up if you're going to do it. And then this is also just on a little hinge here, and you can just pull off the handle. Well, it just pulled out the whole part. So again, just be careful with that. And I'm actually noticing that actually I did it wrong. There's a little peg there, which I kind of damaged in the process, but they made it so that you actually have to pull this out a little bit strangely in order to get that off of there correctly. So we'll try that again. I guess actually you are supposed to pull out this back skirt a little bit out to the side a little bit so that it can actually then move back. You can actually get to it a little bit easier. And then you're meant to pull this like straight out a little bit first before you rotate it, but I don't know really how you're really supposed to do that. It seems kind of a little easier said than done. But you're supposed to be able to pull it out just a little bit without pulling it completely out, and then rotate it, and then take out the beam saber handle. It just seems like a little bit kind of poor design on that one. It's kind of doesn't really work all that well. Seems it would have been better without them making that little tab on there, which I guess is like helps it to keep it straight in place here, but otherwise it's not really all that useful and not really all that necessary. I think it just kind of gets in the way. And then just for a quick size comparison here, unfortunately I don't have the Dynames on hand where I can easily get to it, but you guys know what the Dynames looks like. You don't need to see that. I'll just show you guys just so you can get an idea of the size here compared to a standard ARC-78-2 kit. This is the Verka, just for reference. But as you can see, it's pretty tall, and I just want to draw attention to the proportions of this because it is going to be, as you can see, taller than your average Gundam, and it's got especially long legs in it. So I think, again, that just really works for this design. I really like the design of this. The proportions, I think, really accentuate that. So the proportions are done super well on this kit. I really like that about this kit. And then here's Kit transformed, and it's one of those transformations that is okay, honestly. I mean, it's slightly convincing if you're looking at it from the top, but it's pretty much just a Gundam with a thing on its head just kind of flying along. Slightly better than the Wing Gundam, I think, maybe, but not by much. So it's not really the best transformation, but it does it really well. It's a pretty simple transformation to do. There's nothing really in there that's part of this transformation that makes the kit like really super floppy or anything. So that's good. You don't really need to worry about the transformation weakening the kit, I feel like, because it's really just turn a few things around here and there, and that's pretty much about it. But everything clips into place pretty securely. That's good. It's cool that you can still connect all the weapons and accessories onto there, like the shield and the missile rifle. You can connect all that onto it while it's in its flight mode as well, which is cool. I'm just having one tiny little problem with the little yellow bits that are supposed to be sticking up like towards the front. One stays up fine, the other one doesn't really want to stay up, so it's just kind of like halfway out, so it's just kind of looking a bit odd now. But still, I mean, the transformation works well enough. If you're a fan of this transformation, it does it just fine. It looks pretty convincing, so there you go, there it is. So that is going to be about it, guys. I'll give you a few different looks at some of the weapons and actions, some action poses and all that, so you can see just how cool this kit looks. But it certainly looks cool, and I just want to come back to the point that I was saying a little bit earlier, how basically this and the Dynames are pretty much equal in terms of like the pros and cons. As far as cons, there's actually not really particularly any cons that actually come to mind, and it was kind of the same with the Dynames. There wasn't really anything too negative really to say about it. It's just all pros, all good points. Has really great articulation, check. Great details, check. Cool gimmicks, check. Yeah, this one obviously is different gimmicks from the Dynames, but it has has some cool gimmicks there for sure. Good array of weapon options, check. It's definitely got that as well. So I mean, everything great about the Dynames is equally great about this kit as well. So that's really cool. And so I think that because the Dynames was so good and came out first, that everyone really loved that. It was a really fantastic kit, no doubt, and it received a lot of very outstanding reviews as well. And so when this one came along, it's equally as great, but it's not as new. So that means it's maybe not quite as exciting. So I think maybe that's why I feel like maybe some people may not be quite as excited to be so excited about the release of this. And so basically all I'm trying to say is that if you are a fan of this design, or a fan of just like 00 Master Grade kits in general, or you just think it looks like a cool kit, then definitely get it. It's a great kit, just as good as the Dynames. It's just a different design, and it is not quite as new and exciting now that we've seen how great the Dynames is. It does take away a little bit of the thunder from this one, but it's definitely fantastic kit, so highly recommend it for you guys. And I mean, I think it just looks great. I love the design of this one, and now building it as such a great Master Grade kit really makes me appreciate the design of the Kyrios even more. Like I said, never really been a huge 00 fan. I mean, there's certain designs that I like, and the anime series was fine. I watched it I think once, but this one is definitely one that I always kind of liked, and now I definitely really like this kit. It's a fantastic kit, so looking forward to working on it more in the future. If you guys do have any other further questions or comments about this, do of course feel free to leave those down below. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and as always guys, check out the link to USA Gundam Store. You can get this there and save 10% off using my coupon code there, ZakuAurelius10. Thank you guys all so much, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day guys. Bye bye.